In the midst of a forgotten archipelago, there was an island that the locals whispered about but dared not visit. The jagged rocks formed what appeared to be an ancient structure, a natural monument rising from the waters. Legends had swirled for centuries about this place, stories of a giant human-like monster that roamed the surrounding seas, hunting for children to satisfy its eternal hunger. Many dismissed the stories as mere myths, yet none could deny that no one who ventured near the island ever returned. It was said that long ago, the island had been a thriving village until the people angered an ancient sea god. In retribution, the god cursed their leader, a man whose greed knew no bounds, transforming him into a grotesque giant, bound to the island and condemned to prey upon the living. His flesh became stone, his body embedded into the island itself, but his eyes, those enormous, bulging, unblinking eyes, still watched. They followed the movements of anyone foolish enough to get too close. Max and Julie, two adventurous friends in their early 20s, had heard the legends but dismissed them as mere superstition. "It's just an old wives' tale to scare children," Max had said, laughing as they sailed their small boat toward the island. Julie, ever the thrill-seeker, had agreed. "We'll camp there, take some photos, and make an epic story out of it," she said, her voice filled with excitement. Their journey was long, but as they drew closer to the island, an unsettling silence surrounded them. The wind that had once whistled through the sails had died, and the sea was eerily calm. The island loomed in front of them, its rocks sharp and treacherous, but what drew their eyes was the enormous face emerging from the water. Its eyes, unnaturally large, seemed to watch them as they approached. Max felt a chill creep down his spine, but he shook it off. "It's just the way the rocks look," he said aloud, more to reassure himself than Julie. She was already snapping photos, unfazed by the ominous sight. They anchored the boat and made their way onto the island. The rocks were slippery, but they managed to climb higher, standing atop what they assumed was the island's peak. From up there, they could see the entire archipelago, its beauty marred by the unsettling sensation that they were being watched. Julie laughed, pointing her camera toward the horizon. "This is amazing." But Max couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. He turned, and in the distance, he saw something in the water, a ripple, a movement that defied the stillness of the sea. "Julie," he said, his voice now serious, "we need to go. Now." She lowered her camera, her playful grin fading as she followed his gaze. The water below had begun to churn, and the giant head that had once seemed like a mere formation of rocks was slowly rising from the sea. Its eyes locked onto them. Julie screamed. They scrambled down the rocky slope, their feet slipping on the wet surface, hands desperately grabbing at rocks to steady themselves. But the giant was faster than they had anticipated. It wasn't just a statue. It was alive. The massive creature, half submerged, began to rise further from the water. Its skull-like head was covered in barnacles and seaweed, its skin gray and cracked like ancient stone. Its mouth, now fully visible, was a gaping maw filled with rows of jagged, yellowed teeth. Its enormous hands, with fingers as long as tree trunks, reached toward the shore where Max and Julie ran. They made it to their boat, but as they untied the rope, the water beneath them shifted violently. The giant's hand emerged from the sea, its long fingers wrapping around the boat with a crushing force. The wood splintered as if it were nothing more than dry twigs. Max was thrown into the water, gasping for breath as the icy waves engulfed him. He could see Julie struggling to stay afloat, her terrified eyes locked onto the giant, which had fully emerged from the sea. The monster's body, though partially hidden beneath the water, was impossibly large. It towered over them, its mouth slowly opening wider as it moved closer. Suddenly, Max felt something grab his leg, pulling him down. He thrashed, kicking wildly, but when he looked down, he saw nothing. Just darkness. But the pull was relentless, dragging him deeper and deeper. As his head slipped beneath the surface, his lungs burning for air, he saw the monster's eyes, staring into his soul, as if relishing the fear it caused. Julie screamed again, but it was cut short as the giant grabbed her with one hand and brought her toward its mouth. She struggled, kicking and punching, but it was futile. The monster's grip was unbreakable. Max could only watch in horror as the creature devoured her whole. He was next. The creature turned its attention to him, its massive hand reaching into the water. Max tried to swim away, but the pull beneath him had returned, stronger this time, dragging him deeper into the abyss. He realized with a sickening dread that the giant wasn't alone. There were more creatures lurking beneath the waves, waiting for the leftovers. His vision blurred, the cold water closing in around him. As he sank into the darkness, the last thing he saw was the giant's gaping mouth descending upon him, its hunger never to be satisfied. Days later, a search party was sent to find Max and Julie after they failed to return. They found the wreckage of their boat, splintered and scattered along the shore, but no bodies were ever recovered. Only their camera remained, washed up on the beach. The island was sealed off, and the legends grew even darker. Some said the creature still roamed those waters, waiting for its next victims, especially hungry for the young and the innocent. But those who know the truth say that the giant waits not just to feed, but to reclaim the cursed souls of those who venture too close to its lair. Its eyes, those terrible, unblinking eyes, are always watching, waiting for the next boat to drift into its reach. And the children, oh, how it loves the children most of all.